Well, as we mentioned a moment ago, the White House held several press briefings today about something called equity. It's not equality, it's equity. According to Susan Rice, the chief domestic policy advisor of the White House, enforcing equity will now be the primary mission of every agency in your federal government.
Every agency will place equity at the core of their public engagement, their policy design and program delivery, to ensure that government resources are reaching Americans of color and all marginalized communities.
Now, we should be really clear, and we can't say this enough because there's a rhetorical sleight of hand going on. Equity is not equality. Not everyone got that point. At one point, as he often does, Joe Biden forgot his line. He thought he was there to promote equality, the principle this country was founded on. Fortunately, the new president caught his mistake very quickly.
I believe this nation and this government need to change their whole approach to the issue of racial equity. That means we need to make the issue of racial equity not just an issue for any one department of government. It has to be the business of the whole of government. Advancing equity has to be everyone's job.
So you're 78, you spent your life using the word equality as Americans have for, let's say, 250 years. It takes a while to figure out. Now we're talking about equity, and the concepts have nothing to do with each other. In fact, they're opposites. Equity means dividing people according to categories they cannot control, ones they were born with, like the color of their skin or their sex. And according to Joe Biden, we need a whole lot more of that. Why? Because in May, a guy called George Floyd died.
Those 8 minutes and 46 seconds that took George Floyd's life opened the eyes of millions of Americans and millions of people around all over the world. It was the knee on the neck of justice.
What she didn't realize when George Floyd died was that equality was going away to be replaced with equity. What does that mean for the rest of us? Bob Woodson would know. He's a civil rights activist for, more than 50 years. He founded the Woodson Center, and we're happy to have him on tonight. Mr. Woodson, thank you for joining us. So,
Thanks for having me, Tucker.
If you wouldn't mind, as someone who's put the goal of equality at the center of his life for many decades, tell us what equity means.
Equity, they're using inequality to promote equity. Equity means if you're sitting at the gambling table, everybody gets the same winnings. So you don't have to win. You'll be given it. You'll be getting it rewarded because you are who you are. Tucker, this whole discussion of equity reminds me of a place a car that has 4 flat tires, and we argue over the race or sexual orientation of the driver. The system that
That's good.
It doesn't matter, if the system is broken, and so there are several problems with it. Whenever you generalize about a group, all blacks, all gays, all women, and then you try to apply remedies for problems that group has, it always benefits the elite at the expense of the ones at the bottom. Always ends up being unequal. For example, they generalize about all women. And the Me Too movement was started when a woman in in New York, tried to provide a forum for abused low-income black women to express themselves. Well, middle class and elite black and white women seized that movement and then promoted, quote, equality for women, which meant that white, rich, and privileged black and white women were required to go on boards of directors and jobs in corporation. In the meantime, black women in prison, their needs were ignored.
Yeah.
But they use the conditions of low-income women to promote remedies that does not help them. The other problem, when you're looking at it through a racial prism, is that if evil wears a black face, it escapes detection and correction. For example, Geraldo Rivera did a 2-hour documentary some years ago on sexual abuse of women in prison. Every one of the victims was black. Every one of the victimizers was black. It did not generate any discussion of equality because it didn't fit the racial narrative.
Exactly.
And that's the problem when we try to do that. And also what we do is we dumb down standards.
Well, I've
We
certainly
dumb down
noticed
the
that.
huh?
No, I've certainly noticed that, and it doesn't help people at the bottom. I appreciate your coming on, Mr. Woodson, and of course we'll see you again, and I look forward to it. Thank you.
All right, thank you.